Hi, I'm Dan Murphy, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, Dan, thanks for having me. I'm Jesse Mermell. I'm a Democrat running for Congress here in the 4th Congressional District in Massachusetts, the race to succeed Joe Kennedy now that he's running for the United States Senate. And I'm running because the people and places that we love and the progress that we need to create a fair economy for everyone in the 4th Congressional District now more than ever are under attack. And I believe that we need a member of Congress who's going to fight for the future that we all deserve. I've built a 20-year career here in Massachusetts politics at Planned Parenthood, working for Governor Patrick, serving as a local elected official, heading up the Progressive Business Organization in Massachusetts, doing just that. It's the muscle that I've built here in the Commonwealth, fighting for equal opportunities around the economy. And I want to take that muscle and go to Washington and fight for a fair economy for everyone in the 4th Congressional District as a member of Congress.
Okay. How'd you get started in politics?
Oh man, honestly, I come from a family that is not political at all. I mean, really civically engaged, but in a volunteer for the Red Cross kind of way, not in a run for office kind of way. But my grandmother, who was probably the most civically engaged of all of us, felt really strongly about making sure that I understood and my brother and our cousin understood that we had a real obligation to be problem solvers in our communities, right? Big problems, small problems, big role in fixing them, small role in fixing them, didn't matter. We just had to be part of the solution. And one of the ways that she really worked to drive that home for me was to reach out to the woman who's the mayor of the small city she lived in upstate New York, Middletown, New York, and ask her if I could spend a day with her. I was 10, 11, 12, something like that. And I'd never seen a woman really be in charge of anything like that before. I mean, we're talking about the 80s, early 90s. You turn on the TV and the political leaders you saw were Dick Gephardt and Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan. No one who looked like me. And to see this woman, her name was Gertrude Mokotov, lead and solve problems. It's not the moment where I said, oh, wow, I want to go into politics. But it was the moment where I sort of had this, mind explode kind of way and realize that, yeah, like a woman could be at the head of the table helping to solve these problems. And politics and government really do have a huge role to play in being a part of the solution. So from then I started to pay a little bit more attention, moved to Massachusetts when I was 19 and wound up getting involved in Brookline, where I live, at a very early age, and was actually the youngest person ever elected to the select board here in Brookline, now 13 plus years ago. So I'm not quite sure when exactly that moment I got my start was, but my grandmother letting me spend the day with Mayor Mokotov all those years ago was certainly pivotal, and makes the case to me about why representation matters, and it's important for all of us to find a way to see ourselves out there in different sorts of leaders.
Yeah. So you said you moved to Massachusetts when you were 19. So what's kind of been your connection to this district?
So I've
Dover
run
in
the district
particular.
for now over 20 years. 19 was a ways ago at this point. And
Yeah.
I've been working in politics here ever since, really all focused around creating opportunity for people and creating a shot at a fair economy. So like I said, I served on the select board in Brookline here for 6 years, really leading our local efforts with some incredible community activists around tackling climate change at the municipal level. Before that, I was a library trustee and a town meeting member. I had the opportunity to work for Governor Patrick as his communications director in the last few years of his administration. So had the opportunity to travel up and down the 4th Congressional District with him as a member of his senior team, and to help lead through some tough situations there, like the marathon bombing, the anniversary of which we just celebrated, and served as the head of external affairs at Planned Parenthood in Massachusetts during the heart of the ACA debate. So working on issues of reproductive health, which we know are so germane in the 4th Congressional District for a host of reasons, including that we have 3 of these so-called crisis pregnancy centers here in Massachusetts 4th, these fake centers that mislead people seeking reproductive care and can be incredibly dangerous. And then the last 5 years, I've been running the Progressive Business Organization in Massachusetts. So working with some of the most forward-thinking CEOs and executives who know that when you do what's right for the environment, for families, and for workers, you're doing what's right for business and for the economy. And left that role in the fall of last year to run for Congress full time.
Yeah. So what things do you hope to accomplish should you be elected?
You know, I announced that I was running for Congress on October 2nd. I was in Fall River, and from day one, we've been talking about building a fair economy. And Dan, if you had told me how relevant that focus was going to be today, for reasons that obviously in October we never could have seen coming, yeah, I have been incredibly heartened and doubled in my commitment and the fire that I have in my belly to continue this work around creating a fair economy for everyone in the 4th Congressional District, seeing the ways in which inequality that has existed for centuries in some cases in this country has been exacerbated over the past 2 months. And you ask what I want to accomplish in Washington. I want to accomplish rebuilding an economy coming out of this crisis that is fair, equitable, just, and inclusive for everyone in the 4th Congressional District. You know, we know there are some communities that have been experiencing great boom times, though people struggle everywhere, but there are so many places, Fall River, Attleboro, Taunton, the small communities in between, that have felt left behind and have not experienced that economic growth. We have an opportunity as we rebuild from this crisis to right that wrong, and that's the work that I want to go to Congress to do on behalf of the entire district.
Yeah, and then I guess, as you know, you alluded to it a little bit there, but how has you know, coronavirus, this whole situation, sort of impacted sort of your viewpoint on some of these issues? Because I know that's on everyone's mind.
You know, in terms of impacting my viewpoint, it has only heightened and accelerated and accentuated viewpoints that I've held for a long time. I mean, like I said, I've lived in Brookline for 20 plus years, but I grew up in a small rural farming community in Northeast Pennsylvania that, quite frankly, is a whole heck of a lot like the southern part of this district. It's a place where opportunity left a long time ago, and no one has really been looking in the rearview mirror to check and see how anybody's doing. And so I can't possibly come from a place like where I came from, experience what my family experienced and so many of our friends and neighbors went through, and not focus my life on creating a fair economy and creating opportunity for people. So this crisis hasn't necessarily changed my viewpoint, but it has made me feel an even greater sense of urgency for tackling so many of the inequalities that we know have been here for so long. It has changed how we campaign, however, as you might imagine, and the fact that I'm coming at you from my living room.
That leads into my next question. What have been some of the challenges, you know, running a campaign during the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, if you had told me that I would be campaigning for the United States Congress from my living room, I'm not sure that I would have believed you, but here we are. You know, it is a big challenge when literally the job of running for Congress means you need to be in as many rooms as possible, meeting as many people as possible. And now all of a sudden there's just no way in which to do that that's responsible or safe. And so I'm incredibly proud of my team and our whole campaign. We were one of the first to pivot to an all virtual campaign. We've been hosting regular community conversations, either with different cities and towns in the district or around different topics. You know, we've hosted them around mental health, around how we protect the most vulnerable among us, about how you lift up working families right now. And we've been trying our best to provide resources. You know, weeks ago now, we started putting together a big collection of all of the resources, state, federal, and local, that are available to residents of the 4th Congressional District who might be in need of assistance right now and looking for where they can turn. And we've also been trying to provide some light moments, because that's okay too, right? I've been doing these videos every day, and anyone who knows me will tell you that I screw them up on a regular basis. And so we took a bunch of the outtakes and made a bloopers reel of, me tripping on my words and my dog running in and interrupting things, all of these things that, right, we're all struggling with as we live our virtual lives these days. And we produced like coloring book pages. You can download a picture of my dog holding a Jesse Mermell for Congress sign and color it in, mail it to us. We're going to put it up in our office when it's safe to do so. You know, we're trying to make sure we're leading in ways that are helpful and center the people who are the most vulnerable, and keeping our priorities straight, that public health comes first and the campaign comes second. But we're also looking for those lighter moments, because I don't know about you, over the past 8 weeks, anything that feels like a relief and an opportunity to sigh or enjoy myself for a moment is very, very appreciated. And so we're trying to do a little bit of that in the face of all of this too.
Okay. Yeah. No. So this is a big. This is impacting everyone. And how do you feel like this is going to impact politics and the community at large moving forward, as you know, this situation hopefully resolves?
Sure. Well, I think resolution is a long way off. But I think there are two different parts to your question. There's politics and there's community. I mean, politics is, I think, going to be changed for a long, long time, right? How are we going to vote this fall? I personally really believe that we need a statewide mail-in voting program. I mean, our election is September 1st. Do we really feel like we're going to feel safe and like it's the responsible thing to do, all showing up at the polling place in just 4 months? I don't know that I'd be comfortable asking our voters to do that. I would much prefer that we have a robust mail-in program that people can turn to. You know, like I said before, politics used to be about showing up at a clam boil in Fall River, or you know, standing at the flea market in Rainham talking to folks. Well, you can't do that right now. And so politics is all this, you know, it's me talking to voters through that little dot on my computer. Everything is different. It means we're going to need to look at the ways in which we're advertising differently. But much more importantly, it means that we're going to need to be electing leaders and focusing our community response on how we rebuild. And, you know, the society that we've created and the society that is going through this crisis is one that's experiencing incredible inequities, incredible gaps between haves and have-nots. And we know that those who are in low-income communities, people of color, immigrants, are experiencing this in even more crushing ways. And so we have a responsibility and an opportunity to rebuild in a way that's more equitable, more just, more inclusive, and creates an economy and a country that's more stable in the long run and better able to weather any future challenges. And so I think that the ways in which our community is going to change, and by community I mean, you know, Dover as a town, but also the broader community of the district, of the state, of the country, is going to have to really be in a way that focuses on tackling economic inequalities, creating opportunities for people to be upwardly mobile, and rectifying so many of the gaps and the failures that have existed in our country for a long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. And I think that the other thing that's interesting about this situation is how do people get information about your campaign? Because, you know, you're probably going to be going to less in-person events. So what resources are available for people who might want more information?
Sure. Well, obviously we have a website. It's jessiemermell.com. That's Jessie with an E, Mermell with 2 L's. And there's a translation feature. So if English isn't your first language, if there's another language that's easier for you, we're trying to make it as accessible and easy for folks as possible. You know, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, very accessible there. Happy to try and answer any questions. And we're also hosting events, virtual events up and down the district. So keep an eye on what we're doing, or if you'd like to host something in your community as a chance to learn more about me and about the campaign, and to have your friends and neighbors ask questions, we would be delighted. We've done them in Attleboro and Medfield and Taunton and Newton and so many more places. And there are 34 cities and towns in this district, so we still have more work to do. But yeah, I can't recreate the experience of in-person campaigning, and that makes me incredibly sad because I love it. But we are doing our best to make sure that we are constantly creating virtual spaces where we can connect with voters in a sort of two-way street kind of functionality, because it's as much important for me to hear from voters about what concerns they have, needs they have, questions that they have right now, and for me to do that learning as it is for me to talk to folks about my background and my platform and why I think I'm the best person to represent this district come next January.
Yeah. Now, so what have some of these events been like? The virtual events.
They've actually been pretty good. I have to say, my favorite virtual event was just earlier this week. It wasn't our event. I joined in on a brownie troop meeting in Mansfield just a few days ago, and it was fantastic. These are, 8, 9, 10-year-old girls, and they were doing, a unit about leadership and what it meant to be a woman leader. And we didn't really talk politics, of course, but joined them to talk about what it meant to run for office. And they were asking what groups and clubs had I been a part of when I was a kid. And we were all, my dog isn't here right now, but we're showing our pets and, holding up their cat and their dog. That was my favorite one. But we've been doing more traditional events through the campaign, where local leaders are pulling together 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 leaders from the community who join us on a Zoom call, which I think all of us are spending our entire lives on Zoom calls right now. And I have a chance to talk a little bit about who I am and why I'm running, but then much more importantly, we have an opportunity to take questions, take ideas, have more of a dialogue. And as I mentioned, there are a few of these that we've done that have been topical, where we'll bring in an expert and people can turn to that person for advice. So Barry Sanders, who's the president of the Taunton City Council, but also happens to be a licensed independent clinical social worker, joined us now probably 3 weeks ago now for a big public session that we did over Facebook Live, where we asked everyone to come, regardless of where they live in the district, and ask their questions about mental health and how we're all taking care of ourselves and the people we love right now, not just in a physical health way, but also in a mental health way. So we're trying to do these in a range of different styles, and we're learning as we're going. There's no playbook, right? There's no consultant I can call and say, hey, Dan, how did you win that congressional campaign during the last global pandemic? I mean, it doesn't exist. So
Right.
we're being nimble, we're being creative, we're trying some stuff that works, we're trying some stuff that doesn't work, but that's okay. Trying and failing is how we learn, how we grow, and how we do it better next time. So we're building the plane as we fly it, but so far we're still in the air. So good news.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been in politics for a long time, so it is always constantly adapting to situations, I would think.
Always.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of if there's anything else that you maybe want to say, maybe want to add before I conclude this. Is there anything that we didn't cover? Just throw that over to you.
No, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to check in and to talk to voters in Dover. We have an event in the community, coming up in the next few weeks. And for folks who want to learn more, I hope they'll visit jessiemermell.com. I am more than happy to answer any questions either through the website or through social media. And if folks are interested in hosting something or helping us put something together, volunteering, getting involved in any other way, we're a grassroots campaign. We are fueled by a whole bunch of people who are pouring a whole bunch of energy into this race, and the more the merrier. So I'm just grateful for the chance to check in and say hi for a little bit today.
Okay, yeah. And then what's this event that you said is coming up in Dover?
Oh, so we're doing a virtual event in Dover that a bunch of local folks are hosting on May 14th in the evening. And so I'm not quite sure when this will air, if that will mesh with that, but if folks want to reach out to the campaign, if they're interested in joining us for that, learning a little bit more, asking some questions, they'd be more than welcome.
Yeah, certainly. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me, and good luck with your campaign.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.